Everything you need to know about the United Nations. Hello Displorers, welcome to another informative video presented to you by Displorer and thanks for watching. The coming of the world into its own has brought about the creation of some umbrella organizations to take care of its core issues, set and achieve common goals. One of such organizations is the United Nations, an organization which is very recognizable because of its numerous world activities as well as being part of the political strata of many countries in the world. In this video, we shall have a breakdown of these activities, core creation objectives, as well as its successes and criticisms. But first of all, what is the United Nations? If you are new here, welcome! Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. The UN and its objectives. The United Nations is an intergovernmental organization that aims to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. It is the largest, most familiar, most internationally represented, and the most powerful intergovernmental organization in the world. The UN is headquartered on international territory in New York City, with its other main offices in Geneva, Nairobi, Vienna, and The Hague. Its missions have consisted primarily of unarmed military observers and lightly armed troops with primarily monitoring, reporting, and confidence-building roles. The UN, its officers and its agencies have won many Nobel Peace Prizes, though other evaluations of its effectiveness have been mixed. Some commentators believe the organization to be an important force for peace and human development, while others have called it ineffective, biased, or corrupt. To take a side on the activities of the UN and its effects in the world, we need to understand its creation as well as its branches. Background. In the century prior to the UN's creation, several international treaty organizations, such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, were formed to ensure protection and assistance for victims of armed conflict and strife. In 1914, a political assassination in Sarajevo set off a chain of events that led to the outbreak of World War I. As more and more young men were sent into the trenches, influential voices in the United States and Britain began calling for the establishment of a permanent international body to maintain peace in the post-war world. President Woodrow Wilson became a vocal advocate of this concept, and in 1918, he included a sketch of the international body in his 14-point proposal to end the war. In November 1918, the Central Powers agreed to have an armistice to hold the killings in the World War I. 2 months later, the Allies met with Germany and Austria-Hungary at Versailles to hammer out formal peace terms. President Wilson wanted peace, but the UK and France disagreed, forcing harsh war reparations on their former enemies. The League of Nations was approved, and in the summer of 1919, Wilson presented the Treaty of Versailles and the Covenant of the League of Nations to the US Senate for ratification. On 10 January 1920, the League of Nations formally came into being when the Covenant of the League of Nations, ratified by 42 nations in 1919, took effect. However, at some point, the League became ineffective when it failed to act against the Japanese invasion of Manchuria, as in February 1933. 14 nations voted for Japan to withdraw from Manchuria, but Japan voted against it and walked out of the League instead of withdrawing from Manchuria. It also failed against the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, despite trying to talk to Benito Mussolini, as he used the time to send an army to Africa. So the League had a plan for Mussolini to take a part of Ethiopia, but he ignored the League and invaded Ethiopia. The League tried putting sanctions on Italy, but Italy had already conquered Ethiopia, and the League had failed. After Italy conquered Ethiopia, Italy and other nations left the League, but all of them realized that it had failed and they began to rearm as fast as possible. During 1938, Britain and France tried negotiating directly with Hitler, but this failed in 1939 when Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia. When war broke out in 1939, the League closed down, and its headquarters in Geneva remained empty throughout the war. Although the United States never joined the League, the country did support its economic and social missions through the work of private philanthropies and by sending representatives to committees. The earliest concrete plan for a New World Organization began under the aegis of the U.S. State Department in 1939, with a declaration by the United Nations drafted at the White House on December 29, 1941 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Roosevelt aide Harry Hopkins. 4 policemen was coined to refer to 4 major Allied countries: United States, United Kingdom, Soviet Union, and the Republic of Chad, which emerged in the declaration by United Nations. Roosevelt first coined the term United Nations to describe the Allied countries. On New Year's Day 1942, President Roosevelt, Prime Minister Churchill, Maxim Litvinov of the USSR, and TV Soong of China signed a short document which later became to be known as the United Nations Declaration. And the next day, the representatives of 22 other nations added their signatures. The term United Nations was first officially used when 26 governments signed this declaration. One major change from the Atlantic Charter was the addition of a provision of religious freedom, which Stalin approved after Roosevelt insisted, and by the 1st of March 1945, 21 additional states had signed. Structure. The UN system is based on 5 principal organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council or ECOSOC, the International Court of Justice, and the UN Secretariat. A 6th principal organ, the Trusteeship Council, suspended operations on 1st November 1994, upon the independence of Palau, the last remaining UN trustee territory. 4 of the 5 principal organs are located at the main UN headquarters in New York City. The International Court of Justice is located in The Hague, while other major agencies are based in the UN offices at Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. The 6 official languages of the UN used in intergovernmental meetings and documents are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. The General Assembly. The General Assembly is the main deliberative assembly of the UN, composed of all UN member states. The Assembly meets in regular yearly sessions, but emergency sessions can also be called. The Assembly is led by a president, elected from among the member states on a rotating regional basis, and 21 vice presidents. All other questions are decided by a majority vote, with each member country having 1 vote. The Assembly may make recommendations on any matters within the scope of the UN, except matters of peace and security that are under consideration by the Security Council. International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, located in The Hague in the Netherlands, is the primary judicial organ of the UN and is the only organ that is not located in New York. Established in 1945 by the UN Charter, the court began work in 1946 as the successor to the Permanent Court of International Justice. The ICJ is composed of 15 judges who serve 9-year terms and are appointed by the General Assembly. Every sitting judge must be from a different nation. The ICJ's primary purpose is to adjudicate disputes among states. Economic and Social Council. The Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, assists the General Assembly in promoting international, economic and social cooperation and development. ECOSOC has 54 members, who are elected by the General Assembly for a 3-year term. The President is elected for a 1-year term and chosen amongst the small or middle powers represented on ECOSOC. Viewed as separate from the specialized bodies in its coordinates, ECOSOC's functions include information gathering, advising member nations, and making recommendations. Owing to its broad mandate of coordinating many agencies, ECOSOC has at times been criticized as unfocused or irrelevant. Special agencies. The UN Charter stipulates that each primary organ of the United Nations can establish various specialized agencies to fulfill its duties. Some best-known agencies are the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Food and Agriculture Organization, UNESCO, and the World Health Organization, WHO. The UN performs most of its humanitarian work through agencies. Examples include mass vaccination programs through WHO, the avoidance of famine and malnutrition through the work of World Food Programme, and the protection of vulnerable and displaced people by the UNHCR. Memberships. According to the UN Charter, which outlines the rules for membership in the UN is open to all peace-loving states that accept the obligations contained in the present charter and in the judgment of the organization are able and willing to carry out these obligations. With the addition of South Sudan on the 14th of July 2011, there are 193 UN member states, including all undisputed independent states apart from Vatican City. The admission of any such state to membership in the UN will be affected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. In addition, there are two non-member observer states of the United Nations General Assembly, the Holy See, which holds sovereignty over Vatican City, and the State of Palestine. Funding. The UN is financed from assessed and voluntary contributions from member states, and the General Assembly approves the regular budget and determines the assessment for each member based on the relative capacity of each country to pay. The UN budget for 2020 was $3.1 billion, with additional resources are donated by the members, such as peacekeeping forces. The Assembly has established the principle that the UN should not be unduly dependent on any one member to finance its operations. Thus, there is a ceiling rate setting a maximum amount that any member can be assessed for the regular budget. In December 2000, the Assembly revised the scale of assessments in response to pressure from the United States, bringing the regular budget ceiling from 25% to 22%. For the least developed countries or LDCs, a ceiling rate of 0.01% is applied. The largest contributors for the UN peacekeeping financial operations for the period of 2019 to 2021 are the United States with 27.89%, China with 15.21%, Japan with 8.56%, Germany with 6.09%, the United Kingdom with 5.78%, France with 5.61%, Italy with 3.30%, and the Russian Federation with 3.04%. Special UN programs not included in the regular budget, such as UNICEF and the World Food Programme, are financed by voluntary contributions from member governments, corporations, and private individuals. Evaluation. The UN has over the years made several impressive and successful accomplishments by its own terms. The organization has made the world a more hospitable and livable place, with many of its members earning Nobel Peace Prizes and other awards. Its congratulations to its humanitarian and political efforts to maintaining peace and making the world a better place. But the UN has also been criticized because of several reasons, which include its role, representation and structure, its exclusion of some countries, bias, ineffectiveness, and corruption. The truth is that the organization has its merit, but it will never be a fair playground as long as some nations contribute more to its budget than others. The nations with the higher stakes will always have the higher influence than those with smaller stakes, and the aims of the UN cannot be effective in every situation. There you have it, explorers. That was everything you need to know about the United Nations. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy the video, do well to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.